Look at us matching t-shirts.
Your
I need to get a new one. This
Nightwing.
looks like faded as fuck.
Is it faded, foo?
Are you faded, fool? Hey, are you faded, fool? Welcome back to the Cool Comic Show. I'm one of your what? I can't speak. I'm one of your hosts, Damien, and as your other host with me, as always, is Galactic Mr. E, aka Mr. E, aka Sleepy E. Today we are here to talk about Thor: Love and Thunder, Marvel's Lewis. I can't speak today. Newest movie. Today is
by a guy named Lewis.
Today is Saturday, July 9th. So the movie came out yesterday. I guess technically Thursday night. We both watched it yesterday. E watched it earlier in the day. I watched it at night. We did have a new video series start this week called My Cool Books. We actually had a soft launch of it the week before, where E talked about the comic books of the Pride Month that were released between DC and Marvel. And we had a full launch this week. I put a video up about myself and the Thor book by Jason Aaron, which is where this book took a lot of its inspiration from, or two big plot lines. So we're going to talk about the movie, go through, I have the Wikipedia pulled up here, go through some of the plot, and then also talk about where we see the MCU moving forward. So E, what were some of your initial overall thoughts of the movie?
I don't know. Like, it was a Marvel movie, you know? Like, I felt like the first 15 minutes were a waste of my time with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Really?
And then it got good. Like, I enjoyed when it was just like a Thor movie, you know? And then, like, I don't know. The child's head creeped me out. When Heimdall's son, when he started doing the Wizard of Oz,
Wizard of
astral that creeped me out.
Yeah.
But no, I enjoyed the movie all in all. Like, it was a solid entry in the Marvel universe. There are a lot of neat little Easter eggs and callbacks to earlier things, and of course, I enjoyed how a lot of things were closely pulled from the comic itself.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like
There was
I
something
felt
missing.
like not even missing, just kind of both. There was something missing. Like, I feel like a Christian Bale as Gore was just a highlight of the movie, and I feel like we didn't see him as much as we needed to.
Yep.
And then on the other end, like, I just feel like there was unnecessary things in the movie, like the whole, like I said, Guardian of the Galaxy scene. Like, I don't know, I expected more to come out of like him going on these space adventures with them, and then they were just kind of
Gone.
there, and then they weren't, and I was just like, all right, I guess. So, but like I said, all in all, I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah. So I'm kind of the same way. Like, I enjoyed it. Coming out of the movie, I was thinking about it, and I saw people talking about it online. I think we got kind of spoiled the last couple years of Marvel movies, like right before the pandemic happened, where we had like Endgame, we had Infinity War, we had Ragnarok. We had a lot of like kind of movies that seemed like bigger events happening. And now since then, and this kind of goes into a bigger discussion of Phase 4, of we're getting more of like these individual section off stories, and people were saying that like this is kind of Phase 4 is essentially Phase 1 again, where not everything's going to be super connected a lot. There's not going to be a bunch of these team ups. But I think even with that, I think with this movie, there was still something missing. And I realized after the fact that I wish we would have gotten more of Christian Bale as Gore, God butchering gods. Because he only killed one god in this movie. Well, I guess on screen killed one god.
On screen, yeah. We got a lot of he's doing this, but we didn't like see him really do anything but capture children, which was like, bad guy 101, but like it just, I felt like there just was not enough.
Like and we're gonna jump around with the we're not gonna go, movie starts here, ends here, like we'll jump around stuff we remember. But like even when Sif sends that distress message, like I feel like that could have been a scene where he goes there, he kills that big crazy god, he fights Sif, he cuts her arm off, and then Thor could have showed up, and then she could have told him there instead of like the I guess they would have had to explain like how he finds the whole thing, but yeah, the
Mm.
whole thing with the Guardians,
Another,
like it kind
sorry,
of just happened and it's just gone.
but like that reminded me. Another annoying part of this movie was the comedy. Like there was so much of it, and I was just like,
There was some
why?
good
Of
comedy.
course,
There was yeah,
there were some funny liners that it did have me laughing
yeah,
out loud, but like it's just like Marvel saw that like what they did in
Ragnarok.
Ragnarok, and like it was funny, and they were like, let's do that, but like more.
Yeah,
Let's just make it a whole comedy. I'm just like, we're here for the action,
yeah,
dog. Like even I mean, Sif's part was funny. Like I that's one
yeah,
of the parts where I laughed at where she was like, "Oh, you gotta die during
yeah.
the
Die in
battle."
battle.
She's
Yeah,
she's like, "Dang," but like there were other parts where I'm just like, why are you like wink wink nudging me for a laugh right now?
yeah. It's a. I'll say this. Like, what I don't want people to think about when they're watching this video is that at least for me, that we didn't like the movie. I liked the movie when I realized I was like, okay, this is the way it's gonna go.
Mm,
But there were a lot of issues that it had, and I think I think you can still enjoy something, and you can also recognize that it's not a perfect movie or a great movie.
oh yeah,
And I think
yeah.
over the last couple of years, people have lost sight of that. Of like, oh, if you like it, you think it's a perfect movie, or if you don't like it, you think it's a bad movie, whatever. Like, it's there's different. You can like something, but also recognize its faults. And with this,
Mm,
like you're saying, I think this movie had an issue where, and I think honestly, I think this kind of affects a lot of other Marvel shows and movies in general. That anytime something serious has happened or happening, it's going to end with a joke, and so it's hard to like kind of have those serious moments where
mhm,
someone has to make a joke here, or like the stuff with Sif, like it's kind of campy. I don't know. It's just like a weird. It
mhm.
works when it works great. Like for example, the whole
Exactly.
dynamic between Thor and Stormbreaker and the ex girlfriend ex like weapon kind of thing. That was perfect. That was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that.
but yeah, there was just a
Mm,
lot of times where I was like, this could hit more if they weren't going to end
mm.
this with a joke, which they did in every serious moment.
Yeah, exactly. But like I said, it for a Marvel movie, it's a good Marvel movie. It was
Yeah,
a good installment in the Marvel Cinematic
yeah.
Universe. But like beyond that, I did not
I
care for it
I
for
think
real.
if we got more Christian Bale, this could have been a great like
I believe
if we
so.
got him fighting some of these gods, if we got like even if we got because the movie was pretty short, it was like an hour. I mean, short compared to the other superhero stuff.
Because it
E-
was he was a highlight of the movie.
yeah, even if we
Like
got an
he
extra
was
like 15, 20 minutes of just scenes of him going to these gods, killing them, even him finding out about the eternity thing, like through another god, whatever. Like
Mhm.
even with the Olympus, or I thought it was Olympus, the omnipotent, I think it's omnipotent city,
Yeah,
which
that's great.
I liked a lot of it, but I also was like, this could have been perfect of like Gore showing up here and like
Mhm.
killing some of these gods. Like it was,
Yeah,
I guess just
yeah.
more Gore. I feel like would have been good overall.
Same. I feel like he was definitely just like not utilized to his full potential.
Mhm.
And like I was sitting there watching him. It was towards the end of the movie where he like finally started to get more screen time.
Yeah,
I was sitting there watching. I was like, Christian Bale could have been the Joker.
yeah,
Like
he could have
he could have been the Batman
easily.
or the Joker. Like I don't. I just could have
And
done both.
I think this movie could have been that for him. Like you know how with the Dark Knight, people said like it was the Joker. It was more Heath Ledger's Joker's movie. He was like
Hmm.
Christian Bale was outshining that movie. I feel like
Yeah.
this could have been that for Christian Bale. He could have outshined Thor if he had given.
Hmm.
And I feel like I honestly feel like they. And I've seen some interviews. There was probably a lot more that they filmed that they just didn't include here.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I
know,
believe so too. Like I feel like if the movie was like 15, 20 minutes longer and all those 15, 20 minutes were just gore,
and him
it would have
killing
been
people. But
perfect.
so
It
yeah,
would have been perfect.
I'm going through here trying to remember stuff. So yeah, it starts off obviously with him and his daughter. That whole thing with the scene killing the god.
Mhm.
We talked about the Guardians and stuff. Oh yeah, so then here obviously another big factor, Jane Foster, him becoming Mighty Thor. She finds out she has cancer,
Mhm.
and then she finds out, of course, that it's killing her. I liked her. I thought she was great, like as Mighty Thor.
Mhm.
There was like the part where they get to, and I called it omnipotent, but I think it's omnipotence. They get to the city, and she's having that conversation with Thor about like what's my catchphrase and this and that. Like I thought she did great. I liked her in this movie.
Yeah, I did too. I think she was another highlight in the movie,
Mhm.
coming back off of the
She
Thor
got
movie that shall not be
fucking
named.
buff, dude. She was
He did.
her arms were
Um,
insane.
I enjoyed that her storyline was so very closely like entwined with the comics.
Yeah.
Like they did a good job of pulling that storyline from the comics and making it their own. There are a few like differences, but
Mhm.
all in all, it was the Mighty Thor storyline, and I was just smiling
Yeah.
anytime she was on screen. And spoilers, which if
Yeah,
you're
this is
already
all
watching
spoilers.
this, you've seen
I
this.
forgot. I should have put it at the beginning. Hey, spoilers, by the way.
But in the post-credit scene, we do see her go to Valhalla,
Valhalla.
which is another instance of the comic book, and she eventually does come back as a
Valkyrie.
Valkyrie, which I don't know if they're going to end up doing that, but I do not think we've seen the last of her.
Mhm.
I think we've seen the last of the Mighty Thor, unfortunately, but I don't because he's using Mjolnir again. But
Yeah.
I believe Natalie Portman will be back in
Mhm.
some form.
Yeah, and yeah, like everything with that, like we're going to her going to Valhalla. Like I think when I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's a nice way to kind of close it off. Of like, hey, like
Mm,
she died, but she still was like had this battle with cancer. But now that you mention it,
mm,
yeah, they might bring her back as Valkyrie and kind of like
mm.
do that. But speaking of another Valkyrie, King Valkyrie, um, I
Yes.
feel like this was another part where they maybe cut out a lot of some of her stuff.
Hmm.
Because we introduced her again, she's doing like commercials,
The
and
Old Spice thing. I was like, oh my
yeah, and so
gosh.
they were showing off New Asgard, and so we
Mm,
briefly talked about this. I mentioned this in our a video we just recorded. We just recorded a video reacting to the finale of The Boys, but there was a moment in this movie, Thor, where they get to New Asgard and she's like doing all the corporate stuff, and they have an ice cream shop called Infinity Cones. And if you think about it, in universe of this devastating event that happened, and
very
I was like,
morbid.
leave it to humans to make this devastating event a capitalist venture, not just with the ice cream shop, but the whole tourist thing.
Yeah.
Um, just turn it into this capitalist like
Yeah. I
venture
mean,
thing. It's
like the whole Asgard in general. I mean, the Asgard tours, they're only there because their planet got like
yeah,
demolished.
that's what I'm saying. Like they was just like they're sanctioned now.
Yeah,
They're like, oh, let's make it a tourist thing. So I
exactly.
just thought like it's one of it's when I saw that I was
Mm,
like, this is something you would see in The Boys. That like
mm.
it's a caricature of, hey, this thing happened. It killed half the universe. Let's make something fun about it to remind people every day. Hey, you lost 5 years of your life or whatever. Like
But here's an ice cream cone, you know?
it's just, and I think that goes back to what we are saying of like it's kind of a thing that Marvel does that when they do it well, it works well with the comedy side of it.
Mm,
But when it doesn't work, it's just it sticks out, of like
mm,
there's a lot of things, and I think this is a MCU thing as a whole where death a lot of the times isn't really taken serious, or in serious situations aren't taken serious. Like we are
mm.
just talking about Jane dies, but it's like, oh, she might come back. It's
Yeah,
like, and then the only time death really matters is when the villains die, which
yeah,
I think is a mistake they make in a lot of their movies of having these villains die. I think they should keep them alive because
yeah.
they can come back and I mean they killed
Do
their
some
best
more.
villain that they had was Killmonger. Like
True, true. Which who knows what's going to happen in Black Panther too, but we'll find
yeah,
out in
that's
November.
we'll probably find out in a couple weeks during Comic Con.
Yeah, true. But yeah, I enjoyed Valkyrie in this movie. I also feel like she was a little underutilized.
Yeah.
I did appreciate her fight scenes though. I
Mm.
thought she was a badass,
Yeah. That
especially
fight on
when
that
she
rock.
came out. Fighting on the rock, but her first fight scene as well, just like
Oh
coming out of
yeah.
the sky on the Pegasus in her
Yeah.
goddamn
That was
pajamas.
sick. Her Phantom of
Like,
the Opera shirt. Yeah.
yeah. So like, I definitely enjoyed the character, but like, I feel and that's another thing like one of my gripes about the movie like I feel like they had all these characters which to be fair they did not have as many characters as a lot of Marvel films have
Mm.
these days after the Guardians disappeared,
Mm.
but like they had Valkyrie, they had the Mighty Thor, they have Korg,
They have a
and so
face of
like
Korg.
True, they had the face of Korg, who was dead at this point. Well, dead. His body was dead,
Yeah,
but like they were just like, let's go fight this dude. They fought him, and then all of a sudden Valkyrie stabbed, and she's like, well, I can't go anymore. So I'm just like, all right, well, at least we got you see you do something before
yeah.
they sidelined you.
I
Um, but
honestly,
I
when they,
definitely enjoyed that
yeah,
character.
when they got to that fight on,
Mhm.
they went to that rock, the Shadow Realm. Which shout out to Yu-Gi-Oh, by the way.
Please.
For some reason when I was watching it, because I knew it was a shorter movie going in, when they got
Mhm.
to that rock, I was like, "Oh, is this the end already? Like, are we? Is this the final fight?" Because I
Yeah.
was like, it's gonna pop up. Then it had the brief went back to New Asgard, and then Thor had to go by himself to
Mhm.
do that fight. But before we get to the final fight, we mentioned it briefly. So when they get to the Omnipotent City, I liked that we had this introduction to there's more than just the Norse mythology gods. We have the
Yeah.
Greek gods, we have the Aztec gods. Shout out to my people.
Mhm.
We had this like weird like dumpling god, like all the gods in the whole thing. But I liked it was Russell Crowe playing Zeus. I thought he did great. He was
Mhm.
like it was obviously supposed to be a goofy because Zeus.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with Greek mythology, and I'm a big fan of Greek mythology,
Mhm.
Zeus is like this. Zeus is a head ass, basically. Like he's always
Basically, yeah.
doing involved in shit, and they're talking about orgies in this movie, and so I thought he did a great job of portraying like this goofy ass Zeus who's just like a overconfident in a way. But what I will say is when after that whole scene and at the end they were fighting, and normally when I'm watching, especially a comic book movie, I kind of just suspend disbelief. I'm like, you know, that it's just we're having fun. But in
Mhm.
this movie, it caught me when they were fighting, and they were fighting Zeus's guards. Once like Zeus threw the lightning bolt at Thor, and then he threw
Mhm.
it back, and it went impaled Zeus. I'm like, are none of these other gods gonna do anything? Like they just saw him kill. They just saw him. What we
Right.
thought at the time kill their king because he's a king of gods. Like, are they?
Mhm.
And then they just leave.
And just grabbed it and walked away.
So it was just a weird moment where I was like, I guess those
Yeah.
gods don't care. But then I thought about it. I was like, well, Zeus does mention he has a conversation. He's like, Asgardian problems are Asgardian problems. So
Mhm.
if Zeus is always preaching about like gods take care of their own problems, then I'm like, okay, well, I guess it makes sense that they didn't do anything if Zeus is always preaching just worry about your own shit kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that's kind of looking into it more. I just thought it was a weird thing of like, hey, you just saw this guy kill him and then he's gonna leave. Like,
Yeah. It was a weird moment. I also enjoyed Zeus. Um I also like what happened to the Thunderbolt? Like where did it go?
well, Valkyrie took it,
'Cause-
right?
well, no, the last time we saw it, Thor had it, and then
Oh,
like,
actually, I think I'm talking about the end. Oh yeah.
and then he has Mjolnir again.
Oh, that's true. Huh? Maybe he just has a packed.
He just has Zeus's Thunderbolt just
So yeah,
sitting in the attic.
I thought you were talking about. I thought you were talking about in that scene. Yeah, I guess he
No,
just.
no.
I assume he has it somewhere. I
Who
don't know.
know? We'll find out, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, I like that scene overall. Aside from that weird fight of like, hey, are you gonna do anything? But
Yeah.
just like, and I think that goes back to. I don't know if a lot of people liked it the way like someone like me who's very into Greek mythology and very into like gods and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
If you're not a fan of that kind of stuff, I don't know how you would like this scene, but I thought it was cool just seeing all the gods
I
hanging out and
I liked it, and I like that we got to see Zeus, but I wish this is just me wanting more from Marvel. I wish we got to see more of the gods
the
that they
Greek
have
gods.
introduced in their universe. Like we've gotten introduced to the Eternals, we've gotten
Oh yeah,
introduced to the Egyptian gods through Moon Knight.
that's
We got
true.
Bast in Africa. Like we've seen so many gods throughout this universe, and I feel like this would have been the perfect
Perfect.
scene to
Yeah.
kind of integrate the MCU's kind of celestial gods and then their like mythical gods,
Hmm.
because they've always kind of taken place in separate universes.
Yeah.
Of course, the Eternals and all this, that, and the other, they're happening over here. And you have Moon Knight and all these other gods and over here,
Hmm.
and then this is just like a central realm that could have brought everything
They hang out.
into one place, and they kind of just let it
Yeah,
lay there.
because
We got
I think they had Anubis there, but that was the only Egyptian Like this would have
Oh,
been
I
like
didn't
you're
even
saying.
know Anubis
He,
was
I think he
there.
was in that front row. This would have been the perfect
Okay.
way to connect Moon Knight, like you say. Like it's
Yeah. Also, shout out to Moon Knight and Miss Marvel. They made it into the
yeah,
the opening Marvel
they're in
sequence.
there. Yeah, so yeah, you're right. They definitely could have done a lot more with this. Of like, I wish we would have spent more
Mm,
time here too. Of like, because they were
yeah,
they were there and then they're right into the meeting. Like,
exactly.
if they would have got there, walked around a bit, maybe they would have bumped into a couple of gods. And like even
Mm.
Valkyrie took the robes of the emotional gods. Like we could have
They
seen
didn't
that.
even explain who they were for real, for real.
Yeah, like we could. I feel like that was probably a scene they shot, maybe cut, but
Yeah,
yeah, they
it
definitely
might
could
be.
have been like, "Hey, we get here, we're walking around, we bump into like, hey, here's this god." Like, because I mean, they kind of do it when they're walking into the meeting, like, "Oh, that's a god of this, that's a god of
We could
this,"
have
which
even seen the hippo lady. Like,
that's true. They also could have. There was a moment I don't know if you caught it, where they were like, "Hey, is that the god of cop?" Because they were calling out every god, like, "Oh, that's the
yeah,
god of
they
this," and
were.
they would show them, and then they were
Mhm.
like, "Hey, is that the god of carpentry?" And they didn't show him. Was that? I would assume that's Jesus.
I think. I don't know. I also had that question. I was like, "Ooh,
I would assume
show."
that's Jesus because that was the one god they didn't show. Um, But yeah, I just wish I wish we would have been in this city more. That would have been cool to just hang out with the
Mhm.
gods and do
I
all that.
believe so. I think it was a missed opportunity. Also, may have been a time thing, but
Yeah,
I feel like it would have been a great way to kind of see all of these higher beings in the Marvel universe, which we do kind of see higher beings in the Marvel universe in the temple. When they're
oh yeah,
having that fight, we see who was
there
it?
was
The
a
first
statue
one
of
I
a watcher there, right?
the first one I noticed was the Watcher, but there's also statues of Lady Death, Eon, and the Living Tribunal,
Mm.
who we saw a brief glimpse of the Living Tribunal in the Multiverse of Madness when they're kind of like going through universes and
Oh yeah,
whatnot. I think that was Multiverse of Madness. It might have been what was that show on Disney Plus? What If? It
oh
was
what
one of the
if?
two. But yeah, so these are all the like higher beings in the MC or the Marvel universe as a whole. Because I don't think we've seen Lady Death
But even that,
actually
like we
in
don't
the
even.
MCU.
They're just in the background. Like we don't even get like a
Well, they're
specific.
statues.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
Like
I guess that's true. Yeah, yeah.
they're not even there for real.
That
But like
Oh, go ahead.
I feel like I said, I feel like it would have been a good movie to kind of bring all of these higher beings
That we've met
together.
already.
Not even like just to like focus on them, just to like it's all connected, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. You actually now that you say that, we could have done it like they get to the city and
Mm,
before they get to the actual meeting, when they're walking around, the gods they bump into are the gods that we've met before.
yeah,
That's who they would
I
bump
think
into, have
that
this
would have been.
conversation. That would have been good. And then they get to the big grand stage, and then that would have been cool.
Mhm. I think that would
Um,
have been awesome.
yeah. So all that happens, and then they go to this the eternity. Um, am I tripping, or is that statue or that face that he was opening? It kind of had an outline a little bit. Obviously, it wasn't exact. It reminded me a little bit of Galactus, like his helmet, just the
It
way it
reminded
looked.
me as well, but the Eternity is actually a being in
Yeah.
the MCU,
Mhm.
so I don't think it is, but I did have that thought as
Oh yeah,
well.
no, I was like, obviously it's not Galactus, but I was like, it looks like him. Like
Yeah,
it's his head. Like it's just
true.
honestly, it's me just wanting more Fantastic Four stuff, and
Well, like I think we're going to get it, and
we'll get it. Yeah,
the reason
the Wheezy.
the reason I say that is because, of course, with the other um, uh, post credit scene, we get introduced to Hercules, who is kind of a friend of Thor in the comic books, and we also get like a glimpse of Zeus like plotting his revenge on superheroes in general.
Zeus being Zeus.
So there is a period I think that takes place after Secret Invasion. I don't think it has anything to do with Secret Invasion, but it
Mm.
takes place after Secret Invasion where they put Zeus on trial. Hercules and I think Pluto. Um, so I'm like, we might get another Thor movie sometime soonish because we do have Secret Invasion coming out, which
Yeah,
will probably get an actual like release date or some sort of news coming up in Comic Con,
Comic Con's gonna be
since
crazy, dude.
that's already been released. So I believe that and the Secret Invasion has to do with the scroll, and we've had a lot of things kind of hinting at the scroll, of course, since Captain Marvel. and then Miss Marvel as well. So like I don't know. I just feel like the Skrull are kind of entwined in the Fantastic Four as well. So like I feel like the Fantastic Four are on the horizon. Like
Yeah.
I don't think you can tell a complete Skrull story without introducing them in some fashion. So the Fantastic Four, they're coming. They
Yeah, I
got to
mean,
be
we know
coming.
they're coming because they announced it in that video they released. It
Yeah,
was just the logo. Um,
but they got to be coming soon.
I would hope
Is what I'm
because
saying.
I honestly I think we're gonna get Fantastic Four before X-Men. Honestly, like
we yeah, there's been so many instances of things that take place in the Fantastic Four universe,
yeah.
and I think that's I like you said, I think that's coming first, and then we're gonna start seeing seeds planted for the X-Men.
Do you think we'll
uh
get casting for Fantastic Four at Comic Con?
um I don't I believe so.
Because they
I
did that for
believe there's going to be
Eternals.
some sort of news,
I did that for
and
yeah.
I believe old dude Mr. Spaghetti is coming back. I believe Mr. Spaghetti is coming back. I believe his wife would be perfect casting
Yeah, people
for.
always fan cast her as Sue Storm.
They do, and I'm right there with them. I'm like that would actually be perfect.
Yeah,
I don't know who they'd get to play Johnny or
Johnny.
the Thing, but we'll see.
I I've talked about this before. I'm a big fan of Fantastic Four,
Mm,
so I'm very much looking forward to whatever the next MCU Fantastic Four is. With that being said, I think we talked about it in a previous video. We have plans to watch the Fantastic Four 2016 2015 movie. I've never watched it. At the time when it was coming out, there was just I just ended up like missing like that window was in theaters, and I never watched it after the fact. And then I just heard it was horrible, so like I'm not gonna watch it.
it's a
Um,
movie.
so with me being a big Fantastic Four fan, I thought it'd be perfect for this channel for us to watch it, react to it, and I'll cut it down. Of course, we can upload it. So that'll be coming. I might do that. We might plan to do that around Comic Con. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, going back to the movie, if they do like you're saying the Trial of Zeus kind of thing, I'm all
Mhm,
for that because I'm a big fan of Greek mythology, and if we get to see more of the Greek gods, I'd be sick.
mhm.
Because I don't know if we're ever gonna get that with Wonder Woman because they don't for some reason want to dive into her
They might
Greek
they
mythology
might get
side.
it in the video game, Doug. It's coming out super soon. Just kidding.
But yeah, for whatever reason, DC doesn't want to dive into her Greek mythology side, at least in the movies. So if we get in the Marvel side, I'm cool with that. It's hopefully Wonder Woman talks about something Greek in Wonder Woman 3 when that comes out, when the game comes out in 10, 15 years. We'll see.
If
But
then.
back to Thor. Yeah, they go to that fight, and then Thor gives the kids all of theirs, his powers, and then he's like limited time only or something like that.
Mm,
So I thought that was cool. I thought the thing with like having those kind of scenes with kids, it can always look kind of goofy, which because they're kids, you know.
mm.
So it was pretty goofy, but the final fight with him and Mighty Thor and Gore was sick. I liked that fight. That
Yeah,
was yeah.
I liked that he gave his powers like to them and they were just like the teddy bear girl.
Yeah,
I was hollering. It's
yeah.
just
But I
it's
thought it
like
was
that
cool.
would be me in that situation.
You know what else would
I
have been
just
cool if they got because
well,
he gave him power of Thor temporarily. If they got like little
uh,
Thor outfits, that would have been cool.
yeah. Yeah, that would have been awesome. But I enjoyed the attention to detail. Also, like kind of along those lines, I do like that the reason that Jane was worthy is because Thor kind of enchanted Mjolnir the way that his father did.
Yeah, we didn't even talk
Uh,
about that. Their whole
yeah,
flashback of their relationship.
yeah, which apparently a lot happened between the first two movies.
That honestly, that did more about the relationship than the first two movies did.
Honestly, yeah. The relationship montage.
Yeah, it was sad though. Like watching it, like
Yeah.
that was one of the like few times where the seriousness of something wasn't like put off by a comedy at the end.
Yeah.
When like it has this flashback of their relationship, it shows them being happy. Like there was a funny parts where they're watching the scary movie and like Thor's like protecting them with the hammer and stuff. But then it gets to the end of the relationship, and it was pretty fucking sad. Of like
Yeah.
they're growing apart, and you see that relationship breaking down. And even though it's a montage, you feel it, and it's like fuck, dude. Like
Yeah.
it's, and I think a lot of us kind of, even if you haven't been in that situation in a relationship in the past, like you felt it
Mhm.
like really
Yeah.
real, you know?
You could you could definitely feel the emotion behind that, and I
Mhm.
think they handled it really well to kind of explain like what's going on here, why everyone's being so awkward.
Yeah,
I definitely see what you're saying. I appreciated that, and I appreciated that they didn't undercut it with comedy as
yeah,
well.
yeah. I think
There's too
overall,
much
like,
comedy.
yeah, overall there was. Oh, so speaking of comedy,
Oh boy.
the goats.
Well,
So
shout out to the goats. They are canon.
yeah, so I saw people talking about it. Do you have the goat's name on hand?
No, but hold
But
on.
so while you look that up, yeah, I went to go watch this movie yesterday with two friends, and
Mm.
those goats came on screen, and
Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Grinder.
they were hooting, and they were hollering, and I was like, all right, I didn't think anything of it at the beginning, and then once it
Mm.
got into the ship with the Guardians, I was like, oh, this is gonna be the whole movie. So
The whole movie,
I
though.
looked over to one of my friends I went with, and she looked back at me, and we both had that look of like, this is gonna be a whole movie. Um, there were some parts where when they did their scream, I laughed. Like when they crash into the rock planet, I laughed at
That's the
that.
only part that I hollered at. Like I when they crashed and started hollering, I was like, okay, that was amazing.
And
Like
then
if they would have just kept it at the first time and then that time, solid.
I mean they had a moment where they headbutted on that rock planet one of the shadow monsters.
Mm.
But for the rest of it, I'm like, these fucking goats are hooting and hollering.
I was tired. I was very tired.
um, so yeah, that final fight, and then they get to the end.
Mm,
So I'm curious to know what your thoughts are when they get to inside eternity,
mm,
and Gore's like, I want to kill these gods. I want to kill these gods. I want to kill these gods.
mm.
And then Thor was like, why don't you just wish your daughter back? He's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
and he does that.
um, I think it. I liked it. I liked it. I liked it because it was the basis of the character in the beginning. Like the reason that he became who he was because his daughter died, and he wanted to die as well, but the god like said there's nothing for you but death, and he's like, all right, bet. Also, like while I'm saying this, shout out to the sword. The necro sword, was it called? Is usually held by a character called Null, but Marvel didn't mention him because he's owned by Sony.
Is he?
He's part of the Morbius universe. so,
This is what we're saying.
so
We're doing a Morbius live reaction.
no, 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 no. I have not seen the movie and I will not be watching
I
it.
haven't seen. I'm not gonna lie to you. I haven't seen Morbius. I haven't seen any Venom movie. I
I enjoyed the first Venom movie and I tolerated the second
the thing
one.
the reason why so many people went to watch the first Venom, is why we have Morbius now, and why Sony, because they're like, oh, we can do our own movies. Anyways, yeah, continue on. No.
But yeah, no, that's just a brief shout out. But I think the base why he got caught up in killing the gods is because the sword was
Infecting him.
infecting him,
Yeah.
deteriorating him. It's the whole reason that he went to eternity in the first place. Because as soon as he got the sword,
Sword.
as soon as he got the sword, it was like whispering eternity in his ear. So like right before he got into eternity, the sword was destroyed. So like he's kind of like getting his mind back, and to the reason that like led to all this was because he lost his daughter and there was nothing that he could do for her.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that it played into the character's background that we saw at the beginning of the movie. So it's not completely unfathomable that he did away with his wish to see all the gods dead, because I feel like that was just a heightened response to the sword's influence. And with the sword no longer being there, his main objective was
His
his
daughter.
daughter. And, I don't know if, him like saying, yeah, you can raise my daughter was like
Yeah,
the
it's
best way to play it. But like also it was the only option he had,
yeah.
so I think it works. I can see the kind of okay guy, like
Mm-hmm.
like what are you doing here behind it, but I believe it works.
I I don't have a problem with it. I think it would have
Mm,
worked more for me if we ended up getting more gore scenes because
mm,
in the scenes he showed up, like when he, showed up with the kids, obviously when he the first time he went to the rock planet and he had them all like tied up, he
mm,
does mention like he's like my daughter, like he mentions his daughter multiple times, so they obviously
mm.
lead to that. I think if they would have had more of those gore scenes we talked about, it would have hit more of like
Yeah.
this truly was what he wanted, and the sword was broken, like you're saying that he's gone with the influence. I think in the version of the movie we have, I think it still works. I don't have a problem with it. I did
Mm.
think it was funny of like you're saying when he brings his daughter back, and then like he's like, "Hey, can you watch? She's gonna be alone." And then Jane kind of volunteers Thor to be like,
It's like,
Jane's like,
she
"I'm
won't be
dying, but you
alone.
can watch."
She just looks up at him, right? Like, I guess I'll be a father.
Thor's like, "All right, I guess," but I mean, like, it makes obviously Thor's that kind of guy. I thought it was in the
Yeah.
moment, it was just funny of like Jane's volunteering Thor to be this, not the
Mm.
stepfather, but the father that stepped up.
Oh boy. All right, guy.
um.
Uh,
So yeah, that's kind of overall what things that are happening. I definitely think Ragnarok obviously is better. I'm
mm,
curious if this will be one of those movies um later on after more team ups or whatever that you look back on similar to how some of the early Marvel movies are of like now that we have the context of everything, you can go back and kind of catch some of the stuff.
mm.
I wonder if later movies will make this movie better in the future. I'm kind of
Uh,
curious.
it's possible. Like I definitely enjoyed it. I definitely still do think Ragnarok was better as well.
Mhm.
Um, but I feel like there were a lot of good things in this movie. Like I said, if it was about 15, 20 minutes longer and some of the things were fleshed out, because like you mentioned, like a lot of the emotional aspects did kind of fall flat because we didn't spend a lot of time like going over it. You just
Mhm.
kind of had to get the gist
Yeah.
of these people's
Even
emotions.
like Jane and Valkyrie reuniting, like they kind of just, hey, it
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, we didn't even really see it happen. Like
That's what I'm saying.
Jane snuck to Asgard and just like, ooh, hammer. And then like all of a sudden they're in this fight in the middle of the street and Thor's like, who's that guy?
Yeah, and
Jane's
Valkyrie's like,
like,
you'll like him.
you like that guy.
And they have
That's
that
like
they have
so
that quick conversation outside the bathroom, but we don't really see
yeah.
that relationship
Shout out to
develop.
the hand grenade. Um Also part of comedy that doesn't work. Also, but I mean, they did play Auntie Mary J, and then
I was
she
gonna
played
say, I think
Sierra.
the music, the Sierra, the Mary J worked, but the way they got
Dude,
there was kind of clunky.
it was very like that part made me physically cringe. I was just
It
like,
felt
"Ugh."
fast. It felt super fast, right? Like I feel like we could have lived there a little bit longer. And
But I enjoyed it. I
yeah.
enjoyed it. Also, shout out as we're winding down. Shout out to Dwayne the Rock. Uh,
Oh yeah. Speaking of Rock, shout out to the Rock God sitting on a throne of scissors. That was funny. Like that kind of comedy was perfect. It worked.
yes, yeah. Oh my gosh. But like I said, it had a lot of heart in it. I enjoyed it. It was definitely a good installment in the Marvel universe.
Hmm.
Um I believe this was kind of one of those movies that's just gonna break off into a lot of other stories.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, it might hit on Secret Invasion. It may not. We'll see more of Zeus in the future. I'm sure. We got Hercules in the MCU
Hercules.
now. So we got Love. We don't really know who she is, but we
Is she
got
a
her.
character from the comics?
Not really. As far as I know, I may be wrong. I know Thor does eventually have like a daughter, or he has like depending
I
on
was gonna say,
the
has he ever had
timeline.
a kid like in the?
He's had like three daughters, but
Mm,
like I think one at a time,
mm.
like in different stories.
Which shout
But I
out, that's
don't.
a Chris Hemsworth real daughter that
Oh,
plays Love.
okay.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. But yeah, so like we don't really know who she is. There's some rumors of who she may turn out to be. But
Yeah.
everything's kind of up in the air on the character. But I don't know. We got a lot in this movie. The Guardians of the Galaxy are somewhere doing
They're
something.
which by the way, is it just me or did like Chris Pratt, the actor who plays Star-Lord, did he look kind of like he looked kind of slim?
Oh yeah, he did.
I was like, is he
Yeah.
doing okay? Like, is he all right? Like,
He did look different. Which I don't. When is the next Guardians movie supposed to be coming
so
out?
Volume 3, and that you remember that video they released last year of like Marvel celebrates the movies, and they had like that whole like here's the movies coming out. Obviously, the dates are different now.
Yeah.
Originally, I think it was supposed to come out next year, but I don't know if that date has moved or not.
Oh,
Look it
okay.
up.
Oh yeah, it does still say okay, May 5th, 2023.
Yeah. So
Um,
then that'll be we can kind of go into that as we that's how we finish the video of the future of the
mhm,
MCU. So obviously a lot's up in the air right now. We have Comic Con in a couple weeks, which will kind of set in stone because Kevin Feige recently came out and was like, "You'll find out very soon how we're gonna, go forward with this next
mhm.
saga." So we have Black Panther. What's the next movie? Is it Black Panther?
Black Panther will be in November. I believe that will be the next movie.
We have movies that we know coming out. Black Panther. We have Guardians, the Marvels, um, Ant Man. Right.
Oh yeah,
Let me pull this
I
up.
always forget about that man. I can't wait for his kaiju fight in the Miss Marvel
Oh my
finale.
god, please.
Mhm.
I was pulling up real quick the timeline. Okay, so I pulled up the list of movies that at least have been announced. Right now, Love and Thunder came out. Black Panther's coming out November 11th. Ant Man's gonna come out in February. Guardians in May, like you mentioned, and then the Marvels in July. And the last movie,
It's
that's
your
on
boys.
what?
Oh, I said it's your boys, and
Oh,
it's supposed to be.
Fantastic Four, yeah. That's the
Yeah.
last movie that they consider, at least in Wikipedia, under the Phase 4. But then we also
Mhm.
have future films. It says Blade, the Deadpool 3, Captain America 4, which actually just had its director announced earlier today or
Mhm.
yesterday, um, Shang-Chi's sequel, Thunderbolts, and then it says Untitled Mutant Centered Film. It doesn't even say X-Men, it just says
It's
Mutant
a
Centered.
mutant centered. Wow.
So yeah, the only thing that's on the docket right now, which again I assume for Comic Con, and we can talk more
Mm,
about it during Comic Con, we'll get more of a timeline. It's just up until July of next year with Marvels, and then Fantastic Four
mm.
whenever they come out. So
So what I'm thinking is we're getting Secret Wars, but it's going to tie into Fantastic Four.
yeah,
Because Fantastic Four and the Scrolls, they're kind of like I said earlier, they're kind of intertwined,
mm,
and we've seen a lot of Scrolls pop up recently, starting with Miss Marvel, but even in this phase, we've had them in Miss Marvel, and they just keep popping up.
yeah,
And I feel like we're just going to continue seeing more of these shout outs to them, even in Miss Marvel, where we do have a pop of the scrolls. We also have a look at the Ten Rings
oh
etched
yeah,
into that chamber,
that's true.
which are the Ten Rings part of their technology as well. It throws kind of a lot of things up in the air, but I believe. Um, I believe Secret Invasion is going to take place during Phase 4 as well,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
Oh
So,
yeah, that was just the movies I
um,
pulled up. Yeah,
yeah, so we're gonna we're gonna get a lot more information coming in from them, and I feel like Secret Wars might tie into I don't know because Secret
I
Wars didn't really have to do with the scrolls, but
yeah. I was gonna say a lot of these questions
it
we
has
can.
a lot of multiverse.
Yeah, we'll be able to talk about it more after
Mm,
Comic Con because we'll probably answer more questions. We'll have a timeline of what's actually going to come out because right
yeah.
now Secret Invasion doesn't have a release date. Neither does
Mm,
Ironheart or Armor Wars. So I assume we're going to
okay.
get release dates for those along with the movies as well, and then we can
Mm,
kind of be like, all right, this is the direction they're going to go in and kind of figure it out.
yeah.
So
I
because we
feel
don't even
like
know like what is there a
we're
big
gonna
thing we're building to right now.
Yeah, and I believe I'm with the internet. I believe Secret Wars is what we're
I
building
assume,
up
yeah,
to. There's too many multiverse like things happening.
yeah,
The timeline is in chaos. So I believe that's we're going to like squash the MCU back into like one continuity,
hmm
even though they haven't really been outside of this multiverse or
yeah,
this universe. For real, we do know that there have been instances, especially with the Multiverse of Madness that just
yeah,
came out. But maybe there's just going to be two prongs to it. We'll have the Secret Invasion first, with leading up to the Marvels, and then all whatever happens there is gonna like bring us full circle back to Secret Wars.
Yeah,
Who knows? You know, we'll find out at Comic
we'll find out
Con.
at Comic Con. So speaking of Comic Con,
Weeks.
speaking of
Mhm.
Comic Con, we are planning to either do like videos or live stream. We'll figure it out. We'll probably have more information on our Twitter. But Comic Con weekend is coming up in 2 weeks from now. Today's the 9th. So there's gonna be a bunch of trailers coming out. We'll definitely record for that. I'm just trying to figure out if we're gonna do a live stream that day because Saturday is usually the big day for movie news. DC usually does theirs earlier in the day, and then Marvel does theirs in the evening. So be on the lookout for our channel for a lot of Comic Con stuff happening. Also, we released a new, I mentioned at the beginning of the video, a new series this week called My Cool Books. We're going to be talking about any books that we're reading, anything that we finished reading recently, or maybe some old books we read. And if there's like a movie or TV show coming, we'll do something related to that. The one we did this week was for Thor: Love and Thunder. We did the Thor book by Jason Aaron, like I mentioned. Um, Make sure you check that out. But yeah, that was Thor: Love and Thunder. I think overall, I think when we look back on this movie in the future, I think people will enjoy it, but they're still going to be like, "Hey, there were some flaws here. You know, there were some issues." Um,
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add? Anything additional? Any other shout
No,
outs?
I just my summary. The Guardians were pointless. The tone was all over the
It
place.
was tone was all over the place.
There were some funny parts, but a lot of the comedy didn't land. But the action was really good. I really enjoyed
Action
the
was
fight
dope. Those
scenes.
fights were crazy.
They were really good. Christian Bale, I think, was the highlight of the film. I just wish he had more time. But if you're looking for a Marvel movie, this will definitely scratch that itch.
Yeah. I'll leave you all with this question, including you, E.
Mm,
Will the goats continue
no.
to make appearances in future movies where like there's a big battle going on, let's say in the next Thor movie or Avengers, and it's like, man, our heroes are down, they're down and out. Who's gonna save them? And you hear this screaming come out of the
I
sky.
will walk out of the theater. You know who the goats remind me of? Forager.
Oh my!
That's that is my disdain for the goats.
I feel like as much as we joke, I feel like something like that's gonna happen. There's gonna
No,
be a
I know it
fight,
is
and
because you just spoke it into existence. Okay, and like,
and it's gonna say on
and
your left, and the portal's gonna open, and the
they're just gonna start yelling, and that's when I get up. I throw my popcorn at the screen and I walk out of the theater.
well, that was Thor: Love and Thunder. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for hanging and vibing. Make sure you like and subscribe. We have a couple videos coming out soon of the finale for Miss Marvel. Of course, I mentioned we recorded the finale, or yeah, recorded a finale for The Boys. We have Umbrella Academy coming out. I feel like there's another show coming out. Oh, She-Hulk's coming out next month in August.
Yeah, we still got the Multiverse of Madness video.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that video up.
Said yeah.
Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Okay, bye.